Hey guys, what's going on? Miss Clark back here again with another segment of our Jerry Spinelli Maniac Magee book. Sorry I missed the past couple of days. I've been having some internet issues recently, and our internet just seems to want to act wonky. Every time I upload a video, like the last one took like a day to upload. That's why I was a day late. So this is our third installment, so here we go. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read 9, 10, okay, and 11, and if we have enough time we'll even do 12, because these next 3 chapters are kind of short. Like 9 is literally these 2 pages and this little bit right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how it goes. Okay, I'm wearing a Sam Houston shirt today, SHSU, that's where Miss Clark went to college. So yeah, this is going to be our third installment. Okay, so here we go, chapter 9. John McNabb had never in his life met a kid he couldn't strike out, until the run. Now as he thought about it, he came to 2 conclusions. 1, he couldn't stand having this blemish on his record. 2, if you beat a kid up, it's the same as striking him out. So McNabb and his pals went looking for the kid. They called themselves the Cobras. Nobody messed with them, at least nobody in the West End. The Cobras had heard that the kid hung around the park and the tracks, and that's where they spotted him on one Saturday afternoon, on the tracks by the path that ran from the Oriole Street dead end to the park. He was down by Red Hill and heading away from them, book in hand as usual. But the Cobras just stood there, stunned. "I don't believe it," one Cobra said. "Must be a trick," said another. "I heard about it," said another, "but I didn't believe it." It wasn't a trick, it was true. The kid was running on the rail. So when they mean the rail, like when you see a train track, okay, you have the little railroad ties, the wooden pieces, then you have the two metal pieces on either side running down the sides. He was running on those metal pieces and on that metal piece only. Okay? McNabb scooped up a handful of track stones, so just like a handful of gravel. He launched one. He snarled, "He's dead. Let's get him." By the time Maniac looked back, they were almost on him. He wobbled once, leaped from the rail to the ground, and took off. He was at the Oriole Street dead end, but his instinct said no, not the street, too much open space. He was stuck with the tracks. Coming into view above him was the house on Raco Hill, where he had eaten spaghetti. He could go there to the whistling mother, the other kids. It'd be safe. They wouldn't follow him there, would they? Stones clanked off the steel rails. He darted left, skirted the dump, wove through the miniature mountain range of stone piles and into the trees, skiing on his heels down the steep bank and into the creek, frogs plopping, no time to look for stepping rocks. Yells behind him now, war whoops, stones pelting the water, stinging his back. Ah, the other side. Through the trees and the picker bushes, past the armory jeeps, and out to the park boulevard, past the Italian restaurant on the corner, the bakery, screeching tires, row houses, streets, alleys, cars, porches, windows, faces staring, faces. The town whizzing past Maniac, a blur of faces, each face staring from its own window, each face in its own personal frame, its own house, its own address, some place to be when there was no other place to be. How lucky to be a face staring from out a window. And then, could it be? The voices behind him were growing faint. He slowed, turned, stopped. They were lined up at a street a block back. They were still yelling and shaking their fists, but they weren't moving off the curb. And now they were laughing. Why were they laughing? The Cobras were standing at Hector Street. Hector Street was the boundary between the East and the West End. People did cross the line now and then, especially if they were adults, and it was daylight. But nighttime, forget it. If you were a kid, day or night, forget it. Unless you had business on the other side, such as a sports team or a school. But don't be just strolling along as if you belong there. as if you weren't afraid, as if you didn't even notice you were a different color from everybody around you. The cobras were laughing because they figured the dumb, scraggly runt would get out of the East End in about as good a shape as a bare big toe in a convention of snapping turtles. Alright, so now we're on chapter 10. Of course, Maniac didn't know any of that. He was simply glad the chase was over. He turned and started walking, catching his breath. East Chestnut, East Marshall, Green Street, Arch Street. He had been around here before, that first day with the girl named Amanda, other days jogging through. But this was Saturday, not a school day, and there was something different about the streets. Kids, all over. One of them jumped down from a front step and planted himself right in front of Maniac. Maniac had to jerk to a stop to keep from plowing into the kid. Even so, their noses were practically touching. Maniac blinked and stepped back. The kid stepped forward. Each time Maniac stepped back, the kid stepped forward. They traveled practically half a block that way. Finally, Maniac turned and started walking. The kid jumped around and plunked himself in front of him. Again. He bit off a chunk of the candy bar he was holding. "Where are you going?" he said. Candy bar flakes flew from his mouth. "I'm looking for Sycamore Street," said Maniac. "Do you know where it is?" "Yeah, I know where it is." Maniac waited, but the kid said nothing. "Well, do you think you could tell me where it is?" Stone was softer than this kid's glare. "No." Maniac looked around. Other kids had stopped playing and were staring. Someone called, "Do him, Mars." Someone else, "Waste him." The kid, as you probably guessed by now, was none other than Mars Bar Thompson. Mars Bar heard the calls, and the stone got harder. Then suddenly he stopped glaring. Suddenly he was smiling. He held up the candy bar an inch from Maniac's lips. "Want a bite?" Maniac couldn't figure. "You sure?" "Yeah, go ahead, take a bite." Maniac shrugged, took the Mars bar, bit off a chunk and handed it back. "Thanks." Dead silence along the street. The kid had done the unthinkable. He had chomped on one of Mars's own bars. Not only that, but the kids just didn't put their mouths where other kids had had theirs. Be soda bottles, spoons, or candy bars. And the kid hadn't even gone for the unused end. He chomped right over the Mars bar's own bite marks. Mars bar was confused. Who was this kid? What was this kid? As usual, when Mars bar got confused, he got mad. He thumped Maniac in the chest. "You think you bad or something?" Maniac, who now twice as confused as Mars bar, blinked. "Huh? You think you can come down here and be bad? Is that what you think?" Mars bar was practically shouting now. "No," said Maniac. "I don't think I'm bad. I'm not saying I'm an angel either. Not even real good. Somewhere between, I guess." Mars bar jammed his arms downward, stuck out his chin and sneered. "Am I bad?" Maniac was befuddled. "I don't know. One minute you're yelling at me, the next you're giving me a bite of your candy bar." The chin jutted out more. "Tell me I'm bad." Maniac didn't answer. Flies stopped buzzing. "I said, tell me I'm bad." Maniac blinked, shrugged, sighed. "It's none of my business. If you're bad, let your mother or father tell you." Now it was Mars Bar doing the blinking, stepping back, trying to sort things out. After a while, he looked down. "What's that?" Before Maniac answered, "A book." Mars Bar had snatched it from his hand. "This ain't yours," he said. He flipped through some pages. "Looks like mine." "It's somebody else's." "It's mine. I'm keeping it." With rattlesnake speed, Maniac snatched the book back, except for one page, which stayed ripped in Mars Bar's hands. "Give me that page," said Maniac. Mars Bar grinned. "Take it, fish belly." Silence. Eyes. The flies were waiting. East End vultures. Suddenly, neither kid could see the other because a broom came down like a straw curtain between their faces and a voice said, "I'll take it." It was a lady from the nearest house out to sweep her steps. She lowered the broom, but it kept between them. "Better yet," she said to Mars Bar, "just give it back to him." Mars Bar glared up at her. There wasn't an 11-year-old in the East End who could stand up to Mars Bar's glare. In the West End, even high schoolers were known to crumble under the glare. To old ladies on both sides of Hector Street, it was all but fatal. And when Mars Bar stepped off a curb and combined the glare with his super low dip stride slump shuffle, well, it was said he could back up traffic all the way to Bridgeport while he took 10 minutes to cross the street. So I guess this kid was intimidating to the other kids and even adults. Can you imagine? Like, he's, what did it say, 11? So he's only a couple years older than you guys, and he intimidates people that bad. He makes them nervous. But not this time. This time Mars Bar was up against an East End lady in her prime. She was matching him eyeball for eyeball. And when it was over, only one glare was left standing. And it wasn't Mars Bar's. Mars Bar handed back the torn page, but not before he crumpled it into a ball. The broom pushed him away, turned him around, and swept him up the street. The lady looked down at Maniac. "You better get on, boy, where you belong. Can't be following you around. I got things to do." Maniac just stood there a minute. There was something he felt like doing, and maybe he would have, but the lady turned and went back inside her house and shut the door. So he walked away. I wonder what he would have done. In the comments below, tell me what you think he would have done if she hadn't walked away. What would he have said to her? Alright, so now we're on chapter 11. Now what? Maniac uncrumpled the page, flattened it out as best he could. How could he return the book to Amanda in this condition? He couldn't, but he had to. It was hers. Judging from that morning, she was pretty finicky about her books. So when he said finicky, it means she's just really particular. She's really picky about how she gets her books back, when she gets them back, and stuff like that. What would make her madder? To not get the book back at all, or to get it back with a page ripped out? Maniac cringed at both prospects. He wandered around the East End, jogging slowly, in no hurry to find 728 Sycamore Street. He was passing a vacant lot when he heard an all too familiar voice. "Hey, fish belly!" He stopped, turned. This time Mars Bar wasn't alone. A handful of other kids trailed him down the sidewalk. Maniac waited. Coming up to him, Mars Bar said, "Where you running to, boy?" "Nowhere." "You running from us? You afraid?" "No, I just like to run." "You want to run?" Mars Bar grinned. "Go ahead. We'll give you a head start." Maniac grinned back. "No thanks." Mars Bar held out his hand. "Give me my book." Maniac shook his head. Mars Bar glared. "Gimme it." Maniac shook his head again. Mars Bar reached for it. Maniac pulled it away. They moved in on him now. They backed him up. Some high schoolers were playing basketball up the street, but they weren't noticing, and there wasn't a broom-swinging lady in sight. Maniac felt a hard flatness against his back. Suddenly his world was very small and very simple. A brick wall was behind him, a row of scowling faces in front of him. He clutched the book with both hands. The faces were closing in. A voice called out, "Is that you, Jeffrey?" The faces parted. At the curb was a girl on a bike. Amanda! She hoisted the bike to the sidewalk and walked it over. She looked at the book and at the torn page. "Who ripped my book?" Mars Bar pointed at Maniac. "He did." Amanda knew better. "You ripped my book." Mars Bar's eyes were as big as headlights. "I did not." "You did. You lie." "I didn't." "You did." She let the bike fall to Maniac. She grabbed the book and started kicking Mars Bar in his beloved sneakers. "I got a little brother and a little sister that crayon all over my books, and I got a dog that eats them and poops on them, and that's just inside my own family, and I am not going to have nobody else messing with my books. You understand?" By then, Mars Bar was hauling on up the street past the basketball players who were rolling on the asphalt with laughter. Amanda took the torn page from Maniac. To her, it was the broken wing of a bird. a pet out in the rain. She turned misty eyes to Maniac. It's one of my favorite pages. Maniac smiled. We can fix it. He said it. She believed it. Want to come to my house? She said. Sure, he said. Alright, so we're at chapter 12. We'll pick that up next time, but I'll mark our page here. Alright, so in the comments below, 2 things. I want you to tell me what he would have said to the lady had she not walked away, and I also just want you to in the comments just tell me how you're liking the book so far. Do you like it? Is it interesting? Is it something that maybe if we had gone to the library at school, would you have picked it up, okay, and checked it out and read it? So that's all I have for today, guys. Don't forget to comment down below on our prompts for today, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.